Hi, I'm Ron Schneider, the author of From Dreamer to Dreamfinder, A Life and Lessons Learned in 40 Years Behind a Name Tag. I've been a writer, performer, director, and consultant in themed entertainment starting back in 1970. I grew up in Los Angeles, California, and my dream had always been to be a Disneyland performer. But since then, I have worked for Disney and Universal on both coasts, worked for Six Flags, half a dozen themed dinner shows, always exploring what went into the aspect of live entertainment in those venues. I consider myself someone who does do a two-person show, and the other person doesn't know their lines because the other person is the guest, and I try to personally involve them in everything that I produce. And the book is out now. It's available on Amazon and iTunes. There's an audiobook and a hardcover. Just came out in time for Christmas, and paperback just about everywhere. Well, of course, it's something that was there on opening day. It's something that was produced at the behest of Walt Disney personally. But I think a large part of why it's so fondly remembered, it comes from the way it originated. Walt had this friend, Donald Novis, who was this very famous Irish tenor, and he'd been traveling the country, and they were having dinner together, and Walt said, how's the career going? And Donald said, I'm tired of traveling. He says, I want to settle down. And Walt said, well, I'm building this beautiful Western-themed dinner show, or themed environment, and we can bring you in, we'll put a show in there. Do you know where I can find a comic? And Donald recommended Wally Bogue. The show grew out of Walt's desire to have a good show. He didn't want to dictate what the show was. He hired good people. He left them alone to create the show. There was an original early script, but the show evolved and constantly evolved through the input of Wally Bogue, who wound up being the show director. Donald finally left, was replaced by Fulton Burley. Betty Taylor finally came in, and the show was subject to the drive of the performers. Towards the end, there was no script. If you ever got a script for the Golden Horseshoe, all you got was some of the lyrics for the specialty numbers. But it was a matter of the people up there on stage doing what they knew was going to be effective, what was going to be funny, and so it always hit with the audience. And it was always fresh because these were professionals up there who were used to doing long runs. They all had vaudeville, live performance backgrounds, and were used to doing the same thing over and over and over again and always making it look fresh. So this is why the show is so fondly remembered. You're right, I saw the show and I was inspired to emulate Wally Bogue, and there were about a half dozen of us, other performers like myself, who saw Wally Bogue at the Golden Horseshoe and said, I want to do that. And by hook or by crook, most of them were already inside the company, but I did from outside the company. But by having that goal in front of us and having that model of what to do, at one point or another, we all came to be able to understudy Wally. We did a tribute dinner to Wally a number of years ago, and the front table, there were 4 of us sitting at this front table. All of us had the same backstory. We all wanted to be Wally Bogue when we were growing up. As far as them bringing it back, it's a very interesting question because the people who are going to be trying to bring it back, I'm pretty sure, will never have seen the show. They've described the show in the publicity that they put out there as being full of corny jokes. Well, the jokes may have been corny, but they were first and foremost funny. This show, like I said, was not scripted. And I'm going to be very interested to see what Disney does with trying to recapture lightning in a bottle like this. If they try to script a Golden Horseshoe show, what's it going to be like? Are they going to bring in, Terry Robinson, who was Betty's understudy, is still around. Dana Daniels, who was one of Wally's understudies, is still around. Dick Hardwick. There are good people out there who can step up on stage and, given their creative head, can bring the show back to life. But will the company stand for that? In this age where they script everything to within an inch of its life, it'll be a very interesting experiment. The only way to learn it is by doing it. I've been asked this question a lot, is how do I get a job like what you do? And my advice always is, first, get a job in the park, doing anything. No matter what it is, get in the company. When you're in the company, you can network. They have resources. They have tours. Backstage, you can communicate with the Imagineers. But if you want one of the dream jobs, if you want to be a Dreamfinder, you want to be an Imagineer, after you're in and you know what it's really like, get the hell out, go someplace and do what it is that you want to do for Disney or for Universal. Get the practical experience. The companies do not hire people who want to be Imagineers. They hire Imagineers. They hire people who've already done this. And all the people that I know that have managed to get those jobs, gone somewhere else and acquired the skills so that when Disney was looking for someone to solve a particular problem, that person was already qualified. When I spent 10 years between the time I saw Wally Bogue the first time and the time that I auditioned to be Wally Bogue, I spent 10 years at various theme parks learning to be Wally Bogue. So when I walked in, I was already able to do what they needed. Same thing with Dreamfinder. I had all this background in puppetry and magic and theme park performing and acting. I was able to solve that problem for them, and they could plug me right in. There are places that will teach you the principles of theme park, and there are people who are doing independent study. But as far as the industry itself, the only way to do it really effectively is to get in it. The balance is an easy one because theme parks paid the bills. And doing the shows, with the exception of here at OSF, rarely pays. In Orlando, that's a tough thing to find. So I found also the roles I was having at Disney and Universal were one-of-a-kind stuff, doing the kind of stuff that there was limited coverage. So I was able to juggle my schedule so I could get out and do things on the outside, and people were very amenable to that. The parks try to be that, to be accommodating in that sense. I've been very fortunate. A lot of the work that I did at Mad Cow, doing Major Barbara, and the shows I've done here, did Henry Ford, got to do Falstaff, and Trial of Ebenezer Scrooge we were just talking about. I've been very lucky. I did Man Who Came to Dinner out at the Ice House. These have all been wonderful experiences for me. And the stuff I'm doing now with PRT, we just did a wonderful show called Writer's Block. That was a terrific time and a great script. It's a tool. It's really just this wonderful tool. Part of the Living Character Initiative, they've created this magnificent tool, and it was such a thrill to be part of that 5-month gestation period where they were creating this amazing toy for us to play with. It has blossomed as much as the realities of theme park operations and management will let it. My book, I talk a lot about the glories of benign neglect, when management recognizes that I'm best serve the product by staying out of this and letting the inmates run the asylum. And Monsters Laugh Floor is a perfect example of that. We had a multitude of directors and thumbs in the pie when we started, and it was when a lot of those people went away and the inmates got to get a hold of the toy and run with it that it really started to be funny. There are ways to develop such a thing. I personally would love to see them do more themed shows. There should be a Christmas show. There should be a Halloween show. There should be monster holidays. We could create fictional holidays. There's a lot of things they could do with it. They've created formulas for the different characters that certainly work. I'm proud that I was a part of it. They're still doing a lot of the material that I originated. That's wonderful. I love the people. I love the atmosphere there. And I would love to see it evolve. Doing these things is never so much a question of having the answers, but knowing what questions to ask. And that's where you discover new potential. And the right people to let that show evolve are in place, but not in power. And I hope that they will be able to scratch their way toward finding a greater variety in what they're doing. My problem with the shows are that I know so many people who are doing them and are in them, and who, but the problem is that so many of these shows are so beautifully produced and have exquisite themes that they either ignore or don't develop properly. But Sleuths, which is a bare bones operation, gets by on talent and creativity. It's being run by Laurel, who, there's no tremendous overhead of management. There's just one woman who's a fan of the people she has working for her. And again, benign neglect. They put the shows on, and the characters are allowed free rein, and it's an idyllic situation. And I am a tremendous fan of their work. My best friend Josh and I, we go see every year on our birthdays. He takes me to an attraction, I take him to an attraction, knowing that what we're going to see is going to have its good points and its bad points. 2 nights ago, we went and saw Capone's. A month ago, for my birthday, we went to Medieval Times. Last year, we went to, what's the show next to Pirates?
Treasure Tavern.
Treasure Tavern. And I know people in these shows, and there are people in these shows who I dearly love, and I know they have remarkable talents, but they aren't writing the shows. And the people who are writing the shows write the shows that they think we want to see. They don't always develop the theme in a way that involves the guests. They don't always write the comedy that's going to actually make us laugh out loud. They write stuff sometimes that they think should make us laugh, and therefore they think will make us laugh. And it sometimes can be frustrating. The Living Character Initiative, which is the banner headline on these things, has a definite technology thrust to it. They come up with these wonderful new technologies, and those are wonderful as far as they go. The thing that we haven't been making the advances, that is what I was able to accomplish as Dreamfinder, was in the one-on-one, one person with one guest, and engaging them in the game. And this is really the unexplored horizon of themed entertainment. You go to Renaissance fairs, or you go to Sleuth. They have really done a lot of progress in that. But in the parks themselves, when the Imagineers start writing for people, they tend to fall back on dreams come true, dreams come true. The perfect example of this is a story time with Belle, which is a magnificent setting, a wonderful show. There's a magic mirror that'll blow your mind. There's the wardrobe, which is incredible. There's Lumiere, it's wonderful. And then the door opens and in walks Belle, and now we're back to telling the story of Beauty and the Beast over again, which we've already done. We've already heard it. The adults shut down. The kids are enraptured because they're with Belle. And these things are supposed to be entertaining for the adults and for the kids. And we had them all up until that moment when we decided to recycle the same show we were doing at the Storytelling Garden. And there are an infinite number of stories in the world that we could tell. There are wonderful things that we could be doing with Belle in that castle setting. And yet, we're going to regurgitate, as we often do, the same story that we saw in the film, told much better. Have you seen Toy Story the musical on the cruise ships? Another example, they spent 2 years recreating Toy Story on stage. And when you see it, you have to wonder why. Because you can't do it as well. There's no way you can do it as well. And these are wonderful characters. They deserve to live beyond the thing. And they can. We've seen Toy Story 2 and 3. Make Toy Story 4 a stage. There's a fear that if we don't show the audience what they already know, we're going to lose them. When any logical thought is going to tell you that the first time they saw the original thing, they were all right with it. So maybe we could show them something else original. friends in D23 called me up for the anniversary shows, and especially since the success of the appearance of Dreamfinder Figment with Richard Sherman. But I have no contact with them, and I have no idea of any plans for Imagination. My observation is that ever since we keep acquiring new franchises, every time we get a new franchise, whatever plans they have for Imagination, I imagine getting pushed to the back of the line. We'll get to eventually. It's such a void. It's such a sucking black hole that I can't imagine that eventually there won't be something going in there. And I hold out eternal hope. I am not someone who's clamoring for them to bring Dreamfinder back, because I saw what happened when they brought Figment back. And Figment became just a shadow of his former self and has no meaning or emotional content. And so, frankly, I would hope they wouldn't bring Dreamfinder back, but find something that has that same intent, that same philosophy, that same emotional journey to make that would apply today to people and inspire people today the way we did back then.